Honorable Judge Rachel.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you.
You mixed it?
Dominique?
Today we have case number 9 for the missing piece of the treasure map and a committed murder.
Thank you. So, as been brought to my attention that we have had a mystery on our hands this week. The scholars or the jury that is in this classroom are the crew of the mighty ship, the Envisioners. While in search for ancient treasure, we were hit on an island and a key part of our navigational map went missing. Of the entire crew, we have considered 4 suspects. When you hear your name, please stand. We have our suspect, Dr. Nicholas Smart. Thank you. We have our suspect, Navigator Howard Potter. Thank you. We have our first mate, Sydney Young. Thank you. And lastly, we have shipwreck Robert Neff. Thank you. Today, you will hear the evidence collected against some of our suspects. We will first go into a break. We are now back from break, and we are going to go into the first part of this case, which is the medical scene. I have the captain who will be reading his testimony out to us. Dominique?
I woke that afternoon and Dr. Smart informed me that I have been unconscious for almost 8 hours. As I sat up and scanned my sleeping quarters, I began to panic. I immediately summoned First Mate Sydney Young to accompany me to the ship to locate my personal belongings. When she was unable to be located, Dr. Smart accompanied me instead. As we slowly sifted through shards of glass, twisted metal, and tattered cloth, I finally pulled a small chest from the pile. I held my breath as I slowly opened the box. I nearly lost consciousness again when I looked inside it and realized a portion of the ancient map was missing. As I looked around the room, I noticed a strange powdery substance, a blood spatter, and an overturned cup. Since the storm has passed, Dr. Smart began examining the crew for injuries and noticed that many have fractured or sprained limbs. Given the number injured, he has asked that the surplus of splints and slings stored in the ship's clinic be used to help treat injuries.
Thank you, Dominique. In this process of the doctor going in and treating his patients, the captain has also informed me that there were multiple items found at the crime scenes that were used as evidence. I'm now going to use this time to give my suspects an opportunity to state their evidence and the reasoning to why they may have been at the crime scene. We will first start with the incredible Nicholas Smart. So you're going to tell us the evidence that you had that was at the crime scene and the reasoning behind that. Why was your stethoscope left at the crime scene?
I left it there because it dropped and I didn't pick it up.
Thank you. We are now going to go into the Navigator Howard Potter. Please state your evidence and the reasoning to why it was left at the crime scene.
My compass was found because I was finding my way back to my quarter.
Thank you. Next we have our first mate, Sydney Young. May you state your evidence and the reasoning to why it was left at the crime scene.
My pocket knife was left at the crime scene, and this is because I left it on a barrel, and then this storm came and it broke the boat.
Thank you so very much. And lastly, can we have Robert Neff stand up and please state their evidence and the reasoning to why it was left at the crime scene.
I left my mallet at the crime scene because I was fixing a door and what had moved because of the shift was on my.
Thank you. We are now going to go into another break. please stay close by. We will be starting back shortly. We are now back from our break. We are going to take this time to introduce our lawyers. Our lawyers are then going to introduce their suspects and the position that they plead. Once we get through all of that, we are then going to hear from the suspects their testimony for the reasoning that they plead the position that they plead. Can I please have lawyer one stand up and start us off, please?
I, Christian Garcia, am helping my client, Robert Neff, who is pleading innocent in the case of the missing map.
Shipwreck Robert Neff, how do you plead?
I plead innocent. I, Samantha Carter, am helping my client, Sidney Young, plead innocent with the case of the missing map.
First mate Sidney Young, how do you plead?
I plead innocent.
I, Isaiah Jeffers, am helping my client, Dr. Nicholas Smart, who is pleading innocent in the case of the missing map.
Dr. Nicholas Smart, how do you plead?
I plead innocent.
I, Katie Richardson, am helping my client, Howard Potter, who is pleading innocent in the case of the missing map. Navigator Howard Patterson, how do you plead?
I plead innocent.
Thank you for that. We are now going to introduce our suspects. Our suspects are going to share out their testimonies and the purpose for them pleading innocent. I'll first start off with Dr. Nicholas Smart. Please stand up and share your testimony.
I'm Dr. Nicholas Smart, innocent. I am the ship's physician, and I recently joined the crew. I treat injuries or sickness that plagues the crew. I have been a physician over 15 years, and I'm looking forward to adventures on the open sea.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to have Navigator Howard Potter. Please stand up and share your testimony with the court.
I'm innocent because I've been with the Envisioneers Navigator for 20 years. I know the ship better than anyone. I generally keep to myself, but it's always time to those. I'm always time to those who need advice. I am an expert at reading maps and have analyzed the ancient treasure map.
Thank you for sharing that. Next, I want to have the first mate, Sidney Young. Please stand and share your testimony.
My testimony is I've been the captain's first mate for 3 years. I started my career on the Envisioneer more than 5 years ago. I'm a trusted assistant of the captain. I have full access to his cabin. I am well liked by the crew, and I'm friends with everyone.
Thank you, First Mate Sidney Young. And lastly, can we have the legendary Robert Neff? Please stand up and share your testimony.
I am a loyal friend to the captain. I've been a part of his crew for over 5 years, and I can fix anything. I am quiet, but I am very hardworking. I don't have a lot of friends in the ship, but I do love the life of a shipwright, sailing on the open sea. I was scheduled to fix the door to my sleeping quarters right before the theft.
Thank you for sharing that. And it has also been brought to my attention that in the storm, we had a couple of crew members go lost to a missing island. Here is the robot that was used in the mission to help get those crewmates back. We are then going to go into another break to then talk about the case some more and the evidence that we have on file. We are now back from break, and we are now going to change the scene around. I'm going to have the captain come up and read his testimony that is against our suspect, First Mate Sidney Young. Dominique.
My growing suspicion surrounding the whereabouts of the missing map has taken me back to the scene of the crime to analyze the blood spatter that was left. That's what it says. As we already know, many of the crew members have cuts and injuries. To determine whose blood this is, I need you to create blood spatter samples dropped from the different heights. I had just concluded interviews with the crew about what they saw the night of the storm, and after the ship wrecked, with hopes of learning more about our suspect's movement, the chief steward remembers seeing Neff following Young on the ship. He reported that Young had a gash under his shin and Neff was holding a cloth over a cut on the side of his head. When I spoke to Potter, I noticed blood on his pant leg, below his right knee. He says it wasn't his and must have gotten it while helping Dr. Smart. I had yet to speak with Dr. Smart, but recall a bandage around his hand as he examined me after the shipwreck. While Neff and Young were being led back to the ship by the robot, Young was bitten by a snake. Young is feeling a bit foggy, but claims to have been kidnapped by Neff, which Neff denies. Dr. Smart believes Young may be suffering from mild delusions caused by a neurotoxic snake bite, which explains her fuzzy memory.
Can I please have First Mate Sydney Young come up and share her side of this story?
Now that I've had some time to recover from my hemotoxic snake bite and dehydration, I had an opportunity to talk to the captain privately. I claimed that I was kidnapped by Neff because I witnessed him speaking to someone in a dark hallway. I can't identify the person, but I did see the unidentified person hand a paper to Neff, who quickly placed it in his toolbox. When Neff turned to leave, he spotted me watching. He approached me and asked me to meet him later to check the damage outside the ship. That's when he kidnapped me.
Thank you, First Mate Sydney. I'm now going to bring Shipwreck Robert Neff to the scene and ask, do you have anything that you would like to say to comment on that accusation against you?
I don't even remember what she's talking about because I never slipped anything into my toolbox and I never even kidnapped her.
Okay, we have some evidence coming in from the captain, who is going to give me the analyzation from the crime scene. This is the blood splatter that was left at the crime scene. I am now going to ask my suspect if they recognize any of this information. You are going to give me a yes or no answer, and then I am going to turn and go to the lawyers. I'm going to start with my first suspect, Dr. Nicholas Smart. Does this blood analyzation look familiar to you? Thank you. I'm going to go into Navigator Howard Potter. Does this blood analysis look familiar to you?
No, ma'am.
I'm now going to go into First Mate Sydney Young. Does this look recognizable to you?
No, ma'am, it doesn't.
And lastly, Robert Neff, does this look familiar to you?
No, ma'am, it does not.
Can I please have my lawyers stand up? Are you all familiar or did you know anything about blood splatters being left at the crime scene?
Yes, because the ship was moving and then, as the captain said, a lot of people got cut and bruises.
Thank you.
Yes, because there was falling debris and leaves and stuff, and so they could have caused anybody.
Thank you.
Yes, because while the ship was moving during the storm, someone could have got injured or hit something, which made the blood splatter.
Thank you.
And guess what? While the storm brought on the ship, people could have fell and hit their head.
Thank you so very much. We're going to go into another break. We'll be back shortly. We are now back from break. We are going to jump into the next step of our case. But before we do that, it has been brought to my attention by lawyer Christian Garcia that he would like to add to his client's testimony. Mr. Garcia, please stand up and share.
My client's testimony was short because she wanted me to say it because I'm a better speaker. If she kidnapped the first mate, then she probably would have left her there because if she knew that she got a paper from someone, then she would have left her to die with the hemotoxin.
Thank you for sharing that. We are now going to go into some evidence. The captain will be bringing me some evidence that was found on the toolbox. There were some fingerprints found. Please, can I have that evidence? Thank you. So according to the files, it has shown me that there are 2 suspects that were indeed at the scene. At this time, I'm going to remove some of the suspects. So can I have the lawyer of Howard Potter to please stand, and the suspect Howard Potter please stand up. It has been brought to my attention that the suspect Howard Potter is indeed innocent. You may now move from the courtroom. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Mr. Richardson.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We still have 3 suspects at the scene. Like I said, we do have 2 fingerprints on file. I am now going to use this time to go around and ask the lawyers to please try to justify why these fingerprints does not belong to their suspects. Can I please start with lawyer number 1?
This is not my suspect's fingerprints because
Would you like
he
us
was
to
not
go?
at the scene of the crime.
Okay. Dr. Smart, do you agree with that statement?
Yes, ma'am. I do.
Okay. Next, can I have our next lawyer, please?
My client was not at the scene of the crime because on the evidence, the fingerprints are indeed loose, where my client has rolls.
Thank you for sharing that. And lastly, I have the last lawyer stand up. Do you agree with the evidence that is put in front of you that those fingerprints could possibly belong to your suspect, to your client?
These fingerprints do not belong to my client because she may have these swirls or whatever you call them, but they're on a different side, so it's in opposite side. And then she wasn't at the scene of crime because she was out exploring, so she can't be at the scene of the crime.
Thank you so much for sharing. With that being said, I do have the results for the fingerprint identification investigation, and at this time I would like to say that when you hear your name, please stand with your lawyer. Dr. Smart and Shipwreck Robert Neff. At this time, all investigations point to you all being guilty. We are now going to go into a break and we will be back shortly. We are now at the very last part of our case. At this time, we are going to ask our jury step in to help us with this case. Like I said, based on all the evidence from our STEM group, we have come to the conclusion that Dr. Smart and Shipwreck Neff are guilty for stealing the ancient map. Jury, I am going to need your help and coming together to figure out how do they plead. Please conjugate now.
We've come to the decision that both parties are guilty.
In the case of the missing map, we have Shipwreck Robert Neff, please stand, and Dr. Nicholas Smart, guilty. You all will be serving 5 years in the federal prison for stealing an ancient map. 30, please escort them out.
You got what you deserve.
Come on, let's go.
Okay, don't touch me. Don't touch me. It's over with.